Alright, it's 6 o'clock. Call things to welcome to the city of Palm Beach, April the 3rd, 2018. Here, Vice President. Alright, invocation. Invocation.
Lord, we thank you for this day. We thank you for the opportunity to come together. We ask you that you guide us, give us wisdom to make good choices for the best interest of our city. In Jesus' name we pray.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And number 4, sir, posting agenda.
Mr. Mayor, council members, the agenda was posted 72 hours before the meeting as required by law.
Alright, number 5, public comments. Time for public comments.
No, one second.
Alright, I guess number 6, public hearing for crime control prevention district. Fiscal 2018-2019, district work plan and budget. So right now it's closing the public hearing, correct? Okay, is there a motion to open the public hearing? Is there a second? Commissioner Diaz, will you make sure the public side questions? We're now in public hearing at 6:02.
Mayor and Council, on this item, the city is required to have 2 public hearings, or 1 public hearing on the budget. The budget was presented to the council on October 2nd. The budget should be approved by September 15th. We're scheduled to have a meeting on Friday the 14th to approve the budget. You have a copy of it there at the dais, and it's been available on the webpage and the city secretary's office and the finance director's office as well. Real brief, in terms of the budget, last year our revenues were $5.7 million. We're expecting an increase of total revenues at $6.1 million. That's on page 2 of the budget. And in terms of the expenditures, we had budgeted $5.3 million last year, and we're looking to have that increase to 5.6. On the whole, our general fund reserve of 5% was at 286 for this fiscal year. That number would go up if the council so chooses to 305 based on the increase in the revenues. Again, we're trying to get to 25% of the general fund to have that reserve. Either way, we're looking to have a net surplus of 114 for this fiscal year. It is a balanced budget, and we have been entertaining comments.
This is for the crime prevention, Happenstone district, correct?
It's in the police revenue.
Sure, that's in the first row. Do you know how much you have to send for posting on the revenue side?
Yeah, it's
How does the budget look compared to the other years?
This is a balanced budget. We're seeing an increase in revenues and a corresponding but lower increase in the expenditures as well. I believe it's a responsible budget. We are budgeting a reserve, which is difficult to do in the past. But again, it's sound management to have a certain amount of reserve in your account. You want to be able to have at least 3 months worth of funds to ensure that if nothing's coming in, you're able to still
That was never the practice here.
The last reserves we have are about 1% or so that I've been able to confirm the last few years. So we really do need to be at 25%. Obviously, you can't get to 25% overnight. You have to, you could do it, but that would require probably cutting 25% of your operations and setting aside, which would be a drastic step. So what we embarked on was to have a 5% set aside for 5 years and get to the 25%.
455.
yeah, it's 460. That's just the way.
Yeah.
Any comment?
No, sir. We just over the past year, we managed to cover a lot of ground. We were in arrears a lot, so we're caught up.
I think that, I am receiving less and less past due bills from previous, periods, so I'm hopeful that, we're able to, overcome that, hurdle, and then we can continue to move this thing forward. Thank you for your leadership, it has really helped, thank you.
Well, does not include the crime prevention?
The crime control is doing, yes, the crime is under, crime control.
Of course, it's a public hearing on the proposed budget for fiscal year 2018, 2019 directive for the crime prevention district. All right, so there's no time frame for us to close the public hearing on the proposed budget. Any more questions? Is there more comments? All right, 6:07. Well, this is a 6:07, we're not closing the open meeting on, hearing on the proposed budget. Now we're gonna go in 6:07, we open the open hearing on public hearing on the proposed 2018 property tax rate for the city of Palm Beach. Is there a motion? Motion by Commissioner Tejeda, by Commissioner Hernandez, for another discussion. Is there now a discussion on public hearing on the proposed 2018 property tax rate?
Mayor and council, on this item, the city currently is taxing at 55,001, basically 50 cents per $100 valuation on property taxes in the city. We're proposing, staff is proposing, and the budget that was presented on August the 2nd is for keeping the property tax at the same rate, that would be no increase. The effective rate for Palmview is 47.95 cents per $100, so it's lower than the current budget. And that's the amount of effort that will be required to raise the same amount of revenues for this fiscal year. The rollback rate is 61.63 cents per $100, and that's the rate that if the city were to increase the taxes beyond 61 cents, then we would have to have the rollback election on that item. And so this is for the property taxes are for Palmview. We'll be happy to entertain any comments. I will add also, Mayor, that we are required to have 2 public hearings on this, which one is today, and the next one will be September 11th.
Property tax, stay the same, right?
The rate, please, the property tax rate.
Mr. Lewis?
We're, yes, we're what, third in the community, in the third lowest.
Yeah, this is among the more, on the lower side of the average for the valley.
Any more discussion, any more comments regarding property tax rate? Going once. All right, it's 6:09, we close now the public hearing on the proposed property tax rate. Item number 7 on consent agenda.
On the consent agenda, the only item I would say, Mayor, that we do not have the minutes of the special meeting that was held in the calendar. But other than that, we will be entertaining the motion to approve.
So which is the D? Oh, C?
Yeah.
All right, entertain motion for letter A, letter B. The motion by Commissioner Tejeda, Commissioner Hernandez, any discussion? Call for a vote. All right, motion carries. So number 8, new business, discussion of action regarding the selection of employee group health insurance provider and authorization to execute a contract.
On that, Mayor, item, Mayor and council, we have, Mr. Yan and Ms. Chapa and Mr. Sed is here.
Good afternoon, Mayor. Jerry Villalobos.
Sure.
Rachel Chapa, Director of Finance.
Jose Guerra with Blvd Insurance.
We went ahead and met, we, Joseph and, Mr. Lewis and Rachel went ahead and met, regarding to the group plans for the, employees for this year, and as we were seeing here, we ended up getting a better rates than we were expecting. We went from a small group to a large group, meaning that we were able what is it, to negotiate better prices going into the large group. So, now we're going into a composite rate, meaning that every employee will be paying the same amount, doesn't matter what age, because before we were paying by age, so the older the employee was getting, the more they were paying. So now as a composite rate, everybody will be paying the same amount the premium is. In front of you, I think I've provided one of these, that Joseph had created for the council. We ended up choosing the 801. Well, my recommendation was, or our recommendation is to go ahead and choose the PPO 801. And on top of there, you can also see the price of per employee.
811?
No,
PPO 801.
It's the, BCBS Blue Choice PPO 801.
Okay.
That one, currently, and you can see our current plan. Our current plan, we have a deductible. We have two plans. We have a deductible of $1,250, and the gold is $1,500. This new plan will be at a deductible of $500 per employee. So one will be lowering the rates for employees, and another will be lowering the deductibles as well for the employees. So it turned out to be.
So the deductible went down?
Yes, sir. Now, I went ahead and I did go that extra mile, and I met with Rachel, and we did the math. And right now, there's currently 65 full-time employees. There's actually 70, but the 70 are part-timers. 56 employees are currently enrolled in our plan. So what I did, I went ahead and just did the math on our 56 employees on the 801 plan. We're looking at 21,000. The city will end up paying 19,768 with 90 cents. That's how much after the 90%, the city takes care of the 90%. So if you differentiate what we're currently paying, I pulled out our current bill, and what we're currently paying is $24,175. We'll be having a savings of $5,206.93. Monthly, yes. Yes.
A month.
Why wasn't it before?
Well, we have. Well, yeah, before you were actually a small group. So you went from small to large, mid-market, where the rates are better and more negotiable.
It's a $60,000 a year savings.
We did get, this is Blue Cross Blue Shield, we also got a quote from United.
We did, Joseph, you wanna?
Yes, we did get quotes from United Healthcare, but they were nowhere near these rates. They were excessive, more than what you're paying right now, and the benefits were pretty much the same, but the rates were a lot higher.
So based on this, we recommended we go with, stay with Blue Cross Blue Shield, let's go with the 801 plan for this fiscal year.
And it is a PPO, and of course effective October 1st.
We did go the extra mile, or Joseph went the extra mile to actually do HMOs as well. But the only problem with HMOs is that they don't offer an out-of-network. So that's the only thing we're risking as an employee going to the hospital and the doctor not accepting not accepting HMO, then the employee is stuck with paying the full amount of the.
And all the hospitals are part of the program, right?
Most of the hospitals.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, very much. Any discussion?
Motion to clarify the Blue Cross Blue Shield plan 801.
Yes, sir. Motion been made, was there a second? Commissioner Garcia, discussion? Call for vote? All right, motion carries. Letter B, discussion of action regarding tax envelopes to the Board of Trustees to the Texas Municipal League Interlocal Government Service Board.
Mayor Council, we have a list of the applicants, or the candidates for the intergovernmental risk. It's the council's decision in terms of her to vote.
Could we hold on until we get the rest of the report?
Yes, we could bring this back, table it to the next regular meeting, and which will hopefully reschedule to the 11th.
All right, letter C, discussion of action regarding resolution of offense city court.
Mayor Council, on this item, this is a resolution asking for some alternatives to the proposed wall that is constructed that would divide that State Park.
supporting the.
Supporting the wall, not supporting the wall.
Well, it's not, it's supporting the park.
Okay.
Supporting the park, that was.
It's not against the wall necessarily, it's against trying to find a solution to, keep the park alive.
So, I need to read it, or? I'll read it, yes.
Okay. This is whereas the United States is considering constructing a border wall, that would, transect Benson's Rio Grande Valley State Park, and whereas in 1944, Elmer and Lloyd Benson Sr. Gifted, 586 acres of land to the state of Texas for $1 to be used for a public park, and whereas the park is part of the World Birding Center, one of the nation's premier bird watching sites, attracting approximately 30,000 domestic and international visitors per year, come to watch more than 20 rare or endangered species at the park. And whereas a proposed 18-foot wall with a 150-foot wide enforcement zone and 24/7 lighting cameras and sensors would dramatically interfere with park operations, visitors, and natural habitat. And whereas the wall would separate the park headquarters and visitor centers from the entire remainder of the park, and only the property owners and law enforcement would be allowed to the south of the wall. And whereas U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service and the Texas Parks and Wildlife Department and approximately 40 public interest groups have expressed their concern for the future of the park with the proposed border wall plans. Now therefore be it resolved by the City Council of Palmview that number one, the United States and the Texas protect the Rio Grande Valley State Park for use by Texans and for other recreation, education, nature conservancy, and ecotourism. And number two, the United States pursue alternatives to a physical barrier, such as technology and staffing as employed at the Santa Ana National Wildlife Refuge. And number three, for the state of Texas protect the oldest state park in the region by advocating the state's best interests of the United States. And number four, copies of the resolution be delivered to the White House, U.S. Senators, U.S. Representatives, Texas Governor, Texas Senator, Texas Representatives, and Parks and Wildlife.
All right, thank you very much. Good motion. The motion from Commissioner Sanitas, your second.
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Nance, any discussion? Call for vote. All right, motion passes. Number 9, monthly department reports.
Mayor, on this item, the first one, we just want to update you on our democracy project. This is something we're trying to work with Act Now as well. As you know, the voter participation in the valley is lower than the state. We're trying to get Palmview to become the first city in the valley to reach the 65% goal of voter registration. So that's a lofty goal, but it's something that we're going to shoot for. Well, I don't know that we'll make it this first year, but we're going to continue to try in the next few years. So far, on August 7th, we had
Resolution.
we adopted a resolution starting the project. On August 29th, we had a volunteer deputy registrar training. We had 25 people that attended this training, so now there's 25 residents of Palmview that can register other folks to vote. So that's a big step forward. If there's folks out there that need to get registered, they can do so here at City Hall or at other facilities at the parks. And so we're having our employees able to do that now. The next step, the next day would be September 25th, and we're gonna have National Voter Registration Day. This is a national effort. We're gonna try to get folks familiar with this date and get as many folks as we can register. Then October 9th is the first deadline, which is when folks have to be registered. If you haven't registered, you need to be registered by October the 29th to vote October 9th, and to vote for this fall's election. And then October 22nd is when early voting will begin to be completed. November the 2nd, and then of course election day will be November the 6th. So that's the schedule that we have for here in Palmview. We're working to make sure that as we're having events, the fall festival, that we're able to get our teams out there. We'll have some tables there to get folks registered. And then we're also have registration sites here at City Hall, at the parks, fire station too. We're gonna put this information on our website and promote it to social media as well. And this is just some brief information cities. And the red line shows how many people are voting from the highest registration or participation rate, which I can't see that city right here, but what is that? No, it's not. The highest voter,
Yeah.
participation is McCook, and then you have.
All three?
It's McCook, Montealto, and Lyford.
Montealto, Lyford, Ed Couch, what is that, Grajeño? Grajeño, Progreso Lakes, Elsa, then you have what?
Lynn.
Then La Jolla, then you have Hidalgo, Sullivan, and then Palm. So we have a little work to do. Our numbers are higher, and so we need to, but it doesn't, we still need to get our folks registered. So that's the goal. That was in the 2014 election. Look at how many people are registered. We have 4,100, más o menos, and 16% voted in the primary. Look at the next one here. Now we have 6,200 registered, so the number of folks that are registered went up in 2 years, and the participation also went up from 16% to 18%, so this is good. We need to continue this to get to that goal. So, that's something that we're working on. We just want to share that with the council, so this is important for the community.
Sure, thank you very much. All right, Better Reed, City Secretary?
Yeah, the reports are there at the dais, Mayor. If the council has any questions, we can certainly entertain those.
No questions whatsoever, Honorable? All right, we'll go to 10 reports, Better 8th Street paving and improvement projects.
We have Mr. Beto Garcia, I'm sorry, before we go there, Mayor, we had,
Of course, we have on the Parks and Recreation Department.
Right, I'd like to say a word on the Park and Recreation Department. I'm sure Mr. Lugo has a report for you guys, but this is a unusual circumstance. First and foremost, it's great to be here tonight. I want to say, appreciate it, Mayor Perez, to the council members present here today. Thank you, I'm sure he would love to hear it. He is really getting up there in age. He doesn't come down and visit as much as he used to, but I'm sure he would love to hear that, Mayor. If you will recall, last year, our firm was retained to look into the possibility of getting some funding for the city. Specifically, we prepared an application for park funding. That application was unsuccessful at the time. I let you guys know, I will let you know again. The city doesn't have a park master plan, and that is 10% roughly of the city's total score with Parks and Wildlife. In the absence of that park master plan, it's harder to get funded, not impossible, okay? And after a discussion with Leo, a discussion with Mr. Lugo, we agreed to try again. I just wanted to remind you guys, if we don't get you funded, the city doesn't owe us anything for trying, okay? So this comes at no upfront cost. If I could pass this out, just to remind you about the program from Parks and Wildlife. It is a 50% match program, meaning for every dollar received from Parks and Wildlife, the city has to come up with $1 of match. That dollar does not have to be in cash. It can be in-kind services, it can be resources, it can be land. Okay, so Leo and I have talked about possibility of defraying the cash cost to the city through other means, specifically by local effort, and perhaps obtaining some land for park use and getting the dollar value of that land as match. However, that doesn't need to be figured out right now. For the purpose of the application, the city just needs to commit to match whatever it is that they're asking for, and that they can figure out where that money will come from at another time. If a grant is offered, it takes about 4 to 6 months for the approval process. The deadline is October 1st, so we won't know until April, more or less, whether we're going to be funded. In that time, again, negotiations can take place, financial issues can be resolved, but if the city cannot resolve where the money will come from for match, you are not required to take it. There is not a grant program out there that requires you to take money. They will offer you the money, and you can always decline if you can't meet the matching requirements at that point. And again, the city wouldn't owe us anything. So that's where we are right now. We had a public hearing prior to this meeting at 5 o'clock where we solicited public input. We've got some very, very good input, particularly from some of the city staff about what they would like to see in terms of park developments in the city. This will be used as part of the basis for the application at the next meeting, which is just next week. We will have a draft application with those priorities condensed into something that is tangible and has budget amounts for it, and then assuming the city's happy with it, there will be an agenda item to pass a resolution to submit that application to Parks and Wildlife. That is required. I can't submit anything on behalf of the city, nor can anyone else without an act of the council making it an official act of the city, and that's what will make it official to Parks and Wildlife. I know I went through that very quickly, but again, we went through all of this last year, so it should seem familiar to you, at least on some level. Are there any questions about it? I just wanted to let you guys know what was going on, that we've agreed to go ahead and try to get you guys some money again this year.
They go to have a city master plan. How would the city master plan work with the parks?
A comprehensive plan covers not just parks and recreation elements, but other elements too, economic elements, water, sewer, drainage, traffic, housing. And, you know, sometimes they have things like, you know, a downtown study, or, you know, things that are specific. Leo wants to get a thoroughfare study, and I believe, there was something else that aren't necessarily. Right.
So they feel requesting a thoroughfare plan too.
A thoroughfare plan, yeah, there was a thoroughfare plan and something else that aren't, well, the comprehensive plan will include the thoroughfare plan.
Sure.
Not all comprehensive plans not all comprehensive plans include thoroughfare plans. They'll do, like, say, a street conditions study, but not necessarily a thoroughfare plan. A thoroughfare plan is slightly different. And so that would be something that, if you guys get a comprehensive plan that Leo would like to see included, of course, we would tailor it to what the city expects, needs, and will use. But yes, it would include a park, recreation, and open space study. That can be submitted under a separate cover to Parks and Wildlife to meet this qualifying criteria. If you get the park, but you can get the park master plan done separately, it's just more expensive to do it that way. If you get the park master plan as part of the comprehensive plan, it is much cheaper as a component of the larger volume of work. And I think that that's what Leo was looking at doing. He wanted to get the comprehensive plan done instead of getting the park master plan done first, and end up in the long run spending more money.
We were gonna be a washout, right, I mean, with this grant. We did not have anything planned, we didn't have anything in order.
I'll be honest with you. Yes, I'm not saying it's impossible, but the scoring that you get just from the park master plan is roughly 10% of the overall scoring. You're starting with a B instead of an A. Okay, even if everything else in the application is perfect, and we will get it as perfect as can be, but there's some things that we just can't do. For example, having water recreation elements like fishing or bridges and piers and stuff like that, you get scoring for that. I don't know that we can include something like that.
You said sewer.
What?
You said sewer.
Sewer?
Yeah, we needed sewer, what was that?
Oh, no. Sewer system study would be part of a comprehensive plan. You know, the mayor was asking about a comprehensive plan, which a park study would be part of. But without this park study, they call it a park master plan. Without this park study, your scoring is coming at a deficit. It means it'll be much harder to get funded, but not impossible. We've made it work in other places, but yeah, if you want to call it a long shot, it's going to be much harder to get funded without those points that you would get for having the park master plan in place. We're willing to try because we know it's not impossible, and we feel like we can make up for that by making the application competitive in other ways. Let me give you an example. If you can dedicate a minimum of 2 acres for conservancy, okay? And basically you can't put soccer fields or playgrounds there, you can just put like trails and benches, okay? But basically kept as a natural preserved area, you can get points. And a lot of places that apply, they don't have 2 acres. If you're planning a 4-acre park, it's kind of hard to have 2 acres set aside as a natural preserve. But if you have a 10-acre park or a 20-acre park, 2 acres is easily feasible, and you can make up for some of the scoring deficit that way. Those are the things that Robert Lugo and I, and that Leo Olivares and I have been discussing, finding ways and strategies to maximize the competitiveness, considering we're starting at a deficit. And we're gonna try to figure it out for you guys. We're gonna try to make the strongest application possible with the given situation. But what I wanted you to understand is that this is what's going on. That's what the public hearing before the meeting was about today. That's what the public hearing before next meeting is going to be about. You're welcome to come early if you can to participate in that, learn a little bit more about the application approval process, and hopefully we'll get something that'll work. But, you know, fingers crossed, like I said, because we are starting at a deficit.
Has the amount of grants of less known throughout the years, or?
It's gone up, that's a
Oh,
good
it's gone up.
that is a very good question, Mayor. Last year, the maximum amount was 400,000, that's what we applied for you guys, we didn't get funded. This year, it has increased up to 500,000, there's been a 20% increase, mostly because of the lobbying of Tim Ponset, the Director of Parks and Wildlife. I don't know what kind of deal he made with the Republican administration we've got here at the state, but he was able to get the funding increased back to former levels. They had dropped it down, now they've raised it back up.
He's the one on the, here in the gym, it was before the Texas Parks and Wildlife Commission. At that time, there was like 20 grants that were authorized at that time, that was it. So whatever was left after that, that was it, no more until next time around.
Right, right.
So it's still the same process.
Well, the money from this, if you're curious, and if you look at it, I highlighted in yellow, the ones we're talking about. We're looking at outdoor recreation, which is communities of under 500,000. It keeps you from competing with San Antonio and Dallas and Houston and Austin. The maximum is 500,000. If you look at the maximum funding amounts down at the bottom, okay, that's the table there. And there is a small community for which the city of Palmview would qualify because they use 2010 census figures. However, the maximum of that is only 75,000. You don't build a lot of park with 75,000. Trust me. So that's what we're looking at. The application deadline is October 1. So we need to get the resolution passed this month. My understanding, the only regular meeting you have this month is next week. Yeah, that's the second meeting, and that's the last one. So we've got to get the resolution passed at that time. Any other questions? Took a little longer than I expected, but I appreciate your attention. I appreciate your time. If any other questions occur to you later, Leo and Annette know how to get in touch with me via phone or email, and I welcome any questions, comments, or concerns. Again, we'll talk about it again next week. Okay? Thank you.
All right, now number 10 on the report, street paving improvement and sewer projects.
Mayor, we have Earth First, Beto Garcia here to give us an update on our street projects.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Humberto Garcia, owner of Earthworks Enterprise. Here, pretty much this month, you have not seen much progress in the paving portion of it, which the city is responsible for doing the paving reconstruction over the sewer project that's been taking place. But there's a process that we need to follow. We cannot pave until the streets are released by the utility contractor. And for the past month, they've been working on the repairs that were taking place with the previous rainstorm. So that obviously held us back, and so as much as I try and push it, we have to follow and wait for that process.
What is their holdback?
Well, they have to retest a lot of the areas that were already paved and unpaved. So and that's good because we don't want to pave over areas that are not structurally.
They haven't released any of the streets.
I'll tell you, for the last month they have not. That's why we haven't seen any paving activity. Not really, but they fell behind with all the repairs that they had to come back and do.
Because I'm getting a lot of calls about not paving and all that.
So have I.
Not us.
Yeah, no, yes, I know, and it's hard for the constituents to understand that they see that and they expect
look at us and say, well, we're the ones that, but it's not us. It's not us.
No, sir. Just today, and we have. I attend weekly meetings every Monday at 9 o'clock and go review this us on behalf of the city and try and get an update, try and see if we can work at least one street, some sort of progress. And today at 3 o'clock I got an email. I got 3 streets released. That's something. It's not enough, but it's something. It's over by Minnesota Road, and so we have Dave Washi, I believe the name of the street is, and those are the only 3 that I've been released on. I cannot pave without their release.
Is there anything we can do to?
A phone call, just like the citizens, I guess, right? Right. I try to do as much as I can. For example, put pressure on them by milling the streets, so that way, when we get in there, we're one step ahead. I don't want to get too carried away with that because the constituents will not like to have their streets milled and have it for a long period of time without being paved.
Yeah.
But I thought maybe I'll put a little bit of pressure on the utility contractors.
Well, I mean, the dust is the issue, and of course, how much water you put in there, it's a dry, and then go back to the dust. Is there any way you can do some of that, oil base, something like that,
No, it's gonna be the same thing, it's
I
gonna
think what
wash
we need to do,
away.
Mayor, I think what we need to do is get in touch with Agua and tell them that stop playing politics and let us
Well, they
get.
should hustle them to do it. I mean,
That's what they should do. They should stop playing politics and let us go on with work. They won't make us look bad.
They are behind on getting the repairs done, you know.
If you're the mayor, you should be calling them today and telling them, stop playing politics and take care of our
well,
problems.
they're not gonna answer right now. But what are the repairs? I mean, what repairs are they have to be doing again? Is it something that they pressured the lines and then?
No, if you remember on the last, storm event,
Oh.
there was a lot of cave-ins and.
Yeah, I saw that.
And, that nature.
And that
What would
demonstrated
you
that they
do?
have that right, right?
And that hasn't been repaired yet.
No.
Some have been repaired but have not been tested, you know,
None of
so.
the streets that came in have been repaired.
That's right, but right.
But some were repaired, I mean, some of you already asphalted them and they went under, right?
That's correct, and they are responsible for making those repairs. We do not go back and do them ourselves. They accepted the responsibility, they will do the warranty and extend it for a
There's
year.
gonna be a lot of that, there's gonna be a lot of politics going on, trying to hinder all the projects and all that stuff, so I think you need to write them a letter or go visit them, we're gonna do the same.
Yes, sir, I do that every Monday,
Yeah.
and, I think with the pressure that we, put on this Monday, on this meeting, rather, today, we were able to get 3 streets released.
3.
Yes, I am expecting by the
Where's
end
our
of the week.
representative? Where's Zico? Where's he?
You ever talked to them?
Zico Ortiz?
Is he don't even know me? He's our representative in Palm Beach, now with that.
Oh, okay, no, he's not part of the meetings,
What?
it's, just the GM and the contractors and ourselves.
People don't care about the city.
Mr. Garcia, the last time you were here, you had, mentioned there was a problem with the process, right, that they were making you wait to.
Yes, I will tell you this, after the last storm event and with all the cave-ins and all their problems that surfaced, I think they've been pretty humble, they didn't, you know, it got better for us here, you know, they were more open to me working around them and helping, you know, cause I've always been trying to be helpful because, what I wanna do for, not only for myself, but for the city is, I was contracted to do this in 30 days. I should have paved all of the streets in 30 days. That's what I was contracted to do. I'm being held back because I have to go behind them. I have to go after them. So that's held me back and that's really hurting my bottom line. So everything that I try and do is how can I make it faster for you all so they can in turn get faster for me and the city, right? It's a win-win for everybody. After this rain event, you know, they humbled down and, you know, it showed that they were not doing a good job and how the areas that we paved had no flaws, so it helped me. And now, you know, it's gotten better, it hasn't gotten worse for us, except, what can happen is, hopefully they can release more streets here by the end of the week, and the weeks to come. I am expecting, cause there's 2 contractors, right, there, on that project, on those 2 projects, I'm expecting a total of, by the end of the week, let's see if I can count them down here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 more streets by OG Construction, you know. Hopefully that will come through by the end of the week. And that's in the area by South La Homa. You got those subdivisions around there, and then you got Minerva subdivision on South Benson. So let's see if we can get something going right now. But I'm trying to do our part, my behalf, pushing them every week.
Sure.
Whatever I can do, because I need to pay.
So which one of the 2 is holding you more back? LNG or ONG?
Well, I guess it's pretty much the same, because I haven't done anything for the home office. For home.
There's another issue that I would like to inform the council of, if I may, address the council, is the reimbursement for the connections, the repaving, for the repaving of the streets. AWA is to reimburse us through, because they get money through the water, for the Texas Water Commission, or the repaving, because they were the spot, remember they were gonna do the spot paving? And, that was dedicated to reimburse us, to apply towards the whole repaving project. Now, AWA made us, submit our invoice to them 3 times. It was never just quite right, and I wanna thank, Beto for really helping us with that, and helping us in the theater engineering, working on that straight. We still have not received the reimbursement, but this is part of the process that we've come across, that it's a little frustrating for us to try to, help them move things along, and then, we get these, responses from AWA, so I just wanted to point that out to the council, that that's.
So you're having trouble collecting from them?
Yeah, it took me about 6 weeks to get the invoice correct for them to accept it so that they can consider it for reimbursement to us.
And have they reimbursed
And
anything?
that it's in process. I talked to them last week and they said that they still have not received the funds for.
You're talking about the portion that that we're gonna repay, right?
Yes,
That we
yeah.
So are they doing it, as each street is getting done, or what is it?
Well,
The
how-
whole amount?
How I did it was, for the pay apps that he, submits to us, because we need to take the linear footage of that and everything, and then that's what I submit to them.
What I was able to do is separate every single little street, every street by street, by name, by call sign that they have assigned to it, so they can easily reference it and go by all. I think there's 53 streets, something like that. Each one, so that way they know what the designation is and what we're talking about. And hopefully that'll speed it up and for everything in the future.
And then there's a Palmview, Ebony Hollow subdivision was the first subdivision that had its streets torn up and they still haven't gone back. There have been other streets that have been paved, except for the ones that they started working with, and we've been without streets for over a year, since July of 2017.
If I can add a couple of things here, Mayor, with this, again, to remind the public, this is a joint project between the city and I was just gonna patch the streets. They had $770,000 for that effort, and the city came in with an additional 1.5, and so you got about $2.2 million for the streets, which is great for the community. The way the process works is that, AWA will, once they finish the street, whether it's, LNG or OG, the 2 contractors, once it's done, within 2 weeks, earthworks has to be there working on the street. Now, we got a problem because obviously there was that rain event, and so they had to go back to do the testing. The soil testing, they were only doing it for 5 feet, and so that obviously had some problems because there were some cave-ins, and after earthworks paved some streets, they had caved in. So they realized they need to do some revised testing. That takes time. They had to hire they had to work on the terms with the other testing company. And so they've done that. They've taken longer than anybody would like. I'm not defending them necessarily, but I'd rather that they do this right in the second round of testing than us have earthworks go through this again and have that problem. So I'm glad they're turning over the streets to you. Hopefully we'll turn them over faster at this point.
But that added testing is not going to cost us.
No.
more time.
Have you talked to them, Mayor?
Yeah.
What they have told you?
Well, they're just trying to finish up the schedule. I mean, the rainwater was not a thing, so obviously that was a problem.
Not about one thing.
Right, but it was
Well, if it
rainwater.
was done right, it wouldn't have, okay.
But what they went 5 feet of test, now they're going 10, why did they do 10 in the beginning? Is it 5 feet to what they do in the beginning? I mean, that's not.
They're going in some places up to 20 feet, so I don't know. The engineer for that project is the one better explain.
They don't show up. They don't show up to our meetings.
We do it by everybody, we're not working on, I ain't getting nobody.
So, that's, at the moment, that's all I can report. Again, I won't, as soon as they release it to me, I have to have that paved by 14 days after release. So I will continue to do that.
You've done a great job. I
Yes.
appreciate your effort.
Congratulations. What you've done is
Yes.
great.
Thank you.
Yes,
So I know they're holding you back.
Good job.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, letter B,
Get the media involved.
report on street lights.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, Rachel Chapa, Director of sheet where I have listed all the streets. They're in alphabetical order first off, let me put them in there. I've added a new column for this report, period, and it's the annexation year. If it has, 1972, it's that's the year that Palmy was incorporated, as a home rule city. So that's what the 1972 is, that they had never, the street lights were never installed there. It could have been that there was, no need maybe at that time, but now there is a need now to install some street lights. So what we're asking the city council to do is, we're ready to start with the smaller projects. If you all want to, give us some recommendations on prioritizing, if you see the first column where it says priority ranking, if you all could just give me like a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever, so that's the way that I will call AEP, and I will have them start with those
Can we get back
projects.
with you on that? Can we get back on you on that?
Yes, but you would, well, you do need to approve, because it's capital improvement project, and so the council would have to approve it.
This is a report, this is a report.
Oh, it's a report, okay.
You cannot take action.
Okay, I'm sorry, I thought
You
we
don't need
were for
electric,
action.
you don't need
Sorry.
it.
But please, if the council will review that and we'll prioritize it at the next meeting.
Yes, okay, thank you.
All right, I guess on number 11, no action taken on.
Yeah, on that, I'll just report to the council, Mayor, I did visit with, the general manager, he signs, and, there was that issue regarding whether or not to, or who would be paying the fee for the private company, at the location. And so, he said that we could probably do something on a change order at the end, he'd be okay with that.
Okay.
So then we wind up, taking that fee.
Okay.
So take,
No action at this time.
all right, it's, 6:47, and now adjourn, I guess the city.
We don't have anything for executive.
Okay, we now adjourn, thank you very much.
Thank you.